Hello everyone and welcome to the Coach channel. In this video we're going to see how Luis Enrique's Paris Saint-Germain managed to destabilize Barcelona and beat them in the Champions League away from home 2-1. Right from the start of the match, Barcelona took control of the game with De Jong dropping between the two centre-backs, while the full-backs pushed higher up to position themselves in midfield alongside Rashford, Olmo and Yomo. On his side, Pedri placed himself just in front of PSG's defensive line to organize the play. The main outlet against PSG's pressing, and the one that will be used throughout the match, is Lamine Yamal on the right wing. Barca will often look for him to escape the Parisian press, and the little genius is on fire in the very first minute. He dribbles past three players with spectacular skills and sets up Ferran Torres inside PSG's penalty area. The first tactical duel of the game is launched, Lamine Yamal vs Nuno Mendes. Now let's talk about the second key tactical duel between the two coaches, Pedri vs Zaire Emery. Hans Flick relies on Pedri to organize his entire game plan, while on the other side, Luis Enrique counts on Zaire Emery to destabilize Pedri and prevent Hans Flick's play from developing. And while cutting off the Pedri option, PSG apply a very high pressing to win the ball back. And that's exactly what happens on two occasions. The Parisians managed to trap Barca by shutting down the passing lanes to De Jong and Pedri and recover the ball very high up the pitch. But very quickly, early in the match, Pedri starts to gain the upper hand in his duel against Zaire Emery and single-handedly breaks PSG's pressing. In addition to Pedri's advantage over Zaire Emery, there is also the other solution, Lamine Yamal, to help Barca build out and push the Parisian block backwards. Like in this action here, where the ball once again goes through Pedri. But this time, instead of playing his duel against Zaire Emery, he shifts it wide to Lamine Yamal. Yamal is immediately pressed by Nuno Mendes from behind, forcing him back into his own half. But with a body feint, he shakes off the Portuguese defender's press, then turns to face the game and takes advantage of the space left by Nuno Mendes to send one of his teammates in behind the defense, but Vitinha covers well for Nuno Mendes' forward run. On this play, with his pressing, Mendes forced Yamal to drop back a lot, and for Hans Flick and Barcelona, it is important that Yamal remains a playmaker high up the pitch. That's why on the following actions, when Pedri comes to find him again to counter PSG's pressing, immediately Olmo tries to accelerate and run in behind Mendes. This forces Mendes to drop back and support his central defense and completely frees the space for Lamine Yamal on the right wing. From there, Yamal has the space to accelerate and reach the edge of the penalty area. He has a 1v1 situation against Mendes, and the Portuguese completely takes the upper hand in his duel with Yamal and wins the ball back with ease. Barcelona start to take control of the game, and Lamine Yamal starts to get on the ball very high up the pitch. In addition, they even manage to prevent PSG's counter press after losing the ball and to support their overload in pressing to counter them and once again switch the play to the right side where Yamal is, with De Jong drawing Vitinha's pressing, who lets go of Olmo's marking. Naturally, Olmo is easily found in behind Vitinha and he immediately spreads it wide to the right wing. And the ball reaches Koundé. Mendes is already anticipating the pass to Yamal, so he starts to accelerate to press Yamal. But Olmo's forward run behind him forces him to drop back and completely let go of the marking on the Spanish genius. Yamal receives the ball totally free. He can look up towards the play and send Ferran Torres through in behind the PSG defense. Goalkeeper Chevalier is beaten by Torres' control at full speed. He shoots towards the empty net, but the incredible defensive recovery from defender Zabarni saves PSG's goal. Barcelona's advantage is starting to show, and in midfield they manage to prevent Vitinha from developing the play. As you can see on this action, in the 16th minute, PSG lose the ball while trying to build around Vitinha in the center. And 2 minutes later, in the 18th, Barcelona completely trap Vitinha and force him into a mistake. Vitinha's pass is totally missed. It is picked up by Yamal, who accelerates through the middle and plays Pedri. The PSG defense is completely compact in the middle. Pedri switches it to the left wing for Rashford, who immediately, with a first-time pass, plays it in behind PSG's defense for Torres. But no offside because he is kept onside by Hakimi's deeper position. Torres meets the pass with a shot and sends the ball into the back of the net. 1-0 for Barcelona. After this goal, Barcelona continued to build their play on the right wing to put Mendes in difficult situations, with Olmo making runs behind him every time he steps out on Yamal, and the Spanish attacking midfielder is sent through in behind the defense. But fortunately, Fabian Ruiz tracks back to cover behind Mendes. But that's when Barcelona will face a real problem. One of their main tactical plans no longer works, and yes, It is the duel between Yamal and Nuno Mendes, when the ball reaches Yamal and he is totally left on his own against Mendes, because none of his teammates accelerated to run in behind Mendes and give him options. Here with Olmo and Condé, who are totally dropped back, so Yamal is quickly trapped and easily loses the ball very high up the pitch, which allows PSG to immediately counter-attack with Fabian Ruiz, who sends Barcola through. This gives a big one-on-one chance that could have ended in a goal if he had shot. After this action, Paris Saint-Germain will try to press very high up the pitch to take back control over Barcelona, but Barcelona's resistance and the ball progression from left-back Martin to find Olmo inside is perfect, and it completely counters PSG's pressing. And once again, Barcelona will spread it wide to the right to find Yamal, and this time the young Spaniard will have the support of right-back Condé, who makes the forward run in behind Mendes immediately when he steps out on Yamal, which allows him to be sent through in depth and avoids the one-on-one against the Portuguese defender, and that is also what happens on this action. Here it is Pedri who is still being followed by Zaire Emery in his own midfield duel. The superiority of the Spaniard over the young Frenchman is starting to be less visible, but he still has the advantage, and he will move to the right wing to support his teammate and free him from Mendes' marking by attracting Zaire Emery and Nuno Mendes towards him. Pedri frees up space for Lamine Yamal to receive the ball, and Yamal plays simple with a triangle combination with Condé, who then sends Pedri through in behind Nuno Mendes. The Portuguese defender and the French midfielder have been bypassed by the movement and play initiated by Pedri. And in the 31st minute, after having totally shut down Yamal in his duel, Mendes for the first time in the match starts to push forward in attack and completely leaves his position. With a body feint, he totally gets past Yamal and once again takes the upper hand over him in their duel, but this time with the ball. Then he accelerates while progressing through the middle. He completely gets past the Barcelona midfielder, which forces De Jong to come back on him and commit a foul from behind, and it is from this action that Paris Saint-Germain little by little will start to take control over Barcelona for the rest of the match. And in the 38th minute, Paris Saint-Germain will score the equalizer, with once again the ball going through Mendes, who carries it forward to bring it into attack, with the Portuguese served on the left wing while Yamal presses the defender, which forces Condé to step out on Nuno Mendes. Behind Mendes, combining a 1-2 along the touchline with Mbaye to get past Condé and outpace the defender Garcia, who stepped out on Mbaye. Barcelona's pressing and midfielders have been thrown in the trash. Mendes accelerates through the middle to serve the striker Mayulu at the edge of the penalty area, who adjusts the goalkeeper Chesney and sends the ball into the back of the net. 1 goal each. In the last 5 minutes of the first half, the Parisians will start to accelerate in terms of pressing and put pressure on Barcelona's defense. Barcelona are finding it more and more difficult to escape PSG's pressing, and Hakimi recovers the ball very high. And on this action too, they try to counter PSG's pressing by trying to go through the right wing with combinations between De Jong and Condé. But the overload from PSG's pressing with 7 players allows them to win the ball back very high up the pitch. Moreover, the Parisians are starting to show more and more control when they are in possession of the ball, as on this action where the pressing on Vitinho no longer works, and he manages to hold under the opponent's pressure, before then serving his teammate on the right wing. This will trigger the deep runs of the Parisian midfielders, and to recover the ball, the Barcelona defensive line pushes very high to catch the Paris Saint-Germain attackers offside, but the Parisians do not fall into the trap and keep control of the ball, which prevents the Barcelonans from playing their own game, which requires having possession. Barcelona are without solutions, and the Parisians, who are starting to have total control of the game, can launch their attackers in behind, like here with Barcola, who is launched behind the Barcelona defense, who plays with the defense and creates a big chance for himself, but his shot is off target. It was once again a huge chance for Paris Saint-Germain to punish Barcelona. Here are the stats of the first half, with Barcelona having 0.88 expected goals while holding 57% possession. On the other hand, Paris Saint-Germain has almost exactly the same expected goals as Barcelona with 0.6, but only 43% possession of the ball. What needs to be understood here is that Barcelona's domination is not very clear. It is only in terms of ball possession in the first half, and the game, which started to swing to the Parisian side around the half-hour mark, will completely shift in their favor in the second half, with an intensive pressing of 7 players right from the beginning of the second half, to force Barcelona to clear the danger and deprive them of the ball. And on their side, Luis Enrique and the Parisians know that from the start of the second half, Barcelona will come back motivated and will want to put very high pressure on the pitch. So to destabilize them in the first 10 minutes, Vitinho positions himself very high and Fabian Ruiz drops down in front of the Parisian defense, which allows him to attract the 2 defensive midfielders who are very strong at recovering the ball. That is Pedri and De Jong. And meanwhile, the attacking midfielder Olmo stays very deep alongside Vitinho. And at the right moment, when the ball starts to go on the left wing towards Mendes, Vitinho slightly drops into the back of the Barcelona pressing to attract Olmo and create a free space behind him, into which the striker Mayolu will dive to serve as a pivot point against the Barcelona pressing. And he is perfectly served by Mendes. The entire Barcelona team is lost. Mayolu serves Barcola on the right wing, and despite the return of some defenders, Barcola easily dribbles past them and shoots, and Sasni opposes and clears the danger. Paris totally asserts their dominance, and they start easily countering the Barcelona pressing, who begin to doubt, and the build-up play from the back by the Parisians starts to hurt more and more, with Hakimi being found on the right wing, who will serve Vitinho as a pivot who has taken his direct opponent by surprise. The left-back Martin, who had stepped out to press Hakimi, leaves an important free space behind him into which Barcola slides, which forces the Barcelona defense to spread out, which creates spaces in the opponent's defense and allows Vitinho to launch Barcola in behind with a long ball. On their side, the Barcelonans cannot find solutions when they have possession. Pedri is completely blocked in the center, which panics his teammates, who are forced to clear the ball. And behind, Pedri signals with his hand to his teammate to circulate and keep the ball. In this type of situation, Barcelona is forced to rely on counter-attacks. Like in this action where Rashford is found on the left wing. He starts to accelerate but is blocked by his direct opponent. So he decides to switch sides with a long ball to find Lamine Yamal, which offers him a one-on-one situation against Nuno Mendes. Yamal accelerates and gains speed to get past Nuno Mendes by cutting into the center. Then, on Mendes' tackle, which does not touch Yamal, the Spaniard throws himself to the ground so that Nuno Mendes would be given a second yellow card and be sent off, which would allow Barcelona to regain control of the game. The referee whistles for a foul but does not give Mendes a second yellow card. That was close for Luis Enrique. He decides to take off the left winger Mbaye and brings in the defender Lucas Hernandez, who will position himself as the left back instead of Nuno Mendes. And on his side, the Portuguese will move forward to attack to transform into a winger and become Nuno Mendovski. For the Spanish coach Luis Enrique, there is no way he will lose his tactical advantage over Hans Flick and Barcelona, especially because of a refereeing mistake. So he does not take risks and Nuno Mendes will no longer defend against Yamal, especially since Paris Saint-Germain is in control of the game and deprives the Barcelonans of the ball. Again, the Barcelonans are trapped when they try to build from the back with the intense pressing of the Parisians. With the Pedri option closed in the center, they try to go to their right wing, but because of the Parisian pressing, they quickly lose the ball. And the ball is recovered by Vitinho, and when they try to switch to the other side, that is the left wing, again the Pedri option is closed by the Parisians. And De Jong tries to offer solutions behind the Parisian pressing. The defense has no other choice but to try to play long. And again, the ball is recovered by the midfielder Vitinho. Whether on the right wing or on the left wing, Paris Saint-Germain is in total control, and Vitinho is the master in midfield. And even if Pedri manages to outsmart the Parisian pressing, the defensive recovery and coverage of the Parisian defenders, and especially Hakimi, completely prevent the Barcelonans from approaching the Parisian goal area. And on their side, the Parisians continue in total control to counter the Barcelonan pressing, with different ways but often with the same actors, with again the ball going to the right wing through Hakimi. Barcola makes a run in depth to push Martin and the Barcelonan defense back, which enlarges the space between the straight line and the line of defenders and the line of midfielders. And Mayolu drops into this space to ask for the ball. Another way is to draw the Barcelonan pressing extremely low with the defender Zabani, who really impressed me throughout the match with his calm and accuracy in the game. And on the opposing pressing, he advances calmly and makes a perfect pass to Barcola, who drops in pivot. Barcola draws Martin, and immediately Hakimi dives into his back, and he is served by Barcola. And again the pressing is countered, and the Barcelonan defense destabilized. A third way to show you how they managed to counter the Barcelonan pressing, with again the ball going to Hakimi on the right wing. On this pressing, Hans Flick had taken out Martin to bring in Balde, so Hakimi is very well marked. Then Hans Flick hopes to succeed in the pressing and recover the ball in the Parisian half. But in reality, it is not the case. The Barcelonans put everything on this pressing with 9 players committed in the Parisian half. The ball reaches Barcola, but the Hakimi option is completely closed by Balde. And there, Barcola changes his tactic and uses the one that was used against Bayern Munich in the Club World Cup, where he uses his speed and rapid side switches to go through the center and counter the Barcelonan pressing. And faced with this total control, Paris Saint-Germain will score the winning goal at the very end of the match by doing exactly what I have shown throughout the video, by executing a very high pressing that suffocates the Barcelonans and allows the Parisians to recover the ball easily. Then the ball drops very deep towards the defender Zabarni, which attracts the Barcelonan pressing, and immediately Lee dives behind the opposing pressing. And yes, it's no longer Barcola. The actors change, but Luis Enrique's plan remains the same. Hakimi advances along the touchline, but he is followed by Balde. Lee is on his own. With body feints, he frees himself from his direct opponent to serve a teammate in the center and counter the Barcelonan pressing. The ball reaches Vitinho, who is now facing the play and who can spread it out to the side towards Hakimi. The Barcelonan defensive block is completely disorganized and blocked in the center. Hakimi is alone and accelerates along the touchline to cross at the edge of the Barcelonan penalty area for Ramos, who finishes the cross with a shot and sends the ball into the back of the net. 2-1 for Paris Saint-Germain. Barcelona will not come back, and in the second half it was total control from Paris Saint-Germain with 64% ball possession and almost double the expected goals with 0.78, while Barcelona only has 0.39. Here is a graph of shooting statistics and chances created by both teams. Throughout the match, Barcelona mostly had the advantage until around the 30th, 35th minute. Then a little after half an hour of play, PSG started to take control of the game and to have total dominance until the end of the match. To conclude, PSG and Luis Enrique showed total control and steel-like mentality throughout the match, despite conceding the first goal. The Parisians never doubted it and knew they were going to win this match. By fighting for ball possession, they prevented Barcelona from playing their own game, because Barcelona needs to have ball control to exist. And in the moments where the advantage could have shifted to Barcelona, Luis Enrique made the right changes and took the right decisions. While on Hans Flick's side, the result is very bad. He did not manage to find tactical solutions to compete against his opponent. And above all, his team lacked intensity and aggressiveness in duels, while that is PSG's weak point. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe, to share, to like, and see you in the next video.